Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to eSports Report. Great show going on today. We're doing a Season 3 relegation recap. Then we're talking all things rosters, where a player is going to be ending up. We're going to be giving all of our ideas and speculation. Of course, JP, the stats guy, has all the stats ready for Roster Mania. It should be good.
Oh, yeah.
You can compile like your dream team. I actually have a dream team.
Do you really?
And I'm going to say it when we get to Roster Mania. And I am willing to bet money against you both that it happens to.
Oh, but you got the
Well, you
intel.
probably got the intel, yeah.
Maybe I do. Anyway, moving on. Another team who massively underperformed at Season 3 relegation was Strictly Business. 2-2 record, 9-9 on map count. I mean, Spacely, Inconsistency, Study, and TCM. Going into this, Study's just come off the back of a fantastic event. Probably one of his best, to be fair. In fact, let's be honest, it was his best event on AW.
Oh, yeah,
Been
by far.
relatively quiet throughout all of AW after a great Call of Duty Ghost. Spacely as well. He's had his ups and downs on AW. Inconsistency, who, I don't know, I feel like he's another one. He's had his great moments, and he's had his pretty shocking ones, too.
Yeah.
He's kind of more inconsistent on a micro level than a macro level. I mean, inside a game, he can win at you, and he can also kind of lose you the game, too. Biolab uplink, I think it was it Champs comes to mind, where he throws the drone and completely misses.
Right.
He botches.
Yeah,
Yeah, I forget who that was against, but yeah. So in fact, it was regionals. That's what it was. TCM as well, of course, another great player. But taking a look at what Strictly Business won and lost, the stats are actually kind of surprising here. They go even in hardpoint, 4-4. The score difference is negative 4.87.
That's basically nothing, so it's...
Basically, every single game is going down to the wire.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's why they split it 50-50. So, okay, not the best. Team KD, though, is positive at 1.04.
Yeah, I mean, you expect that with slayers like Inconsistency
Right.
and TCM. Those guys are really good at the hard point. But when you look at something like S&D, where they're going 2-4,
Yeah, this is pretty cool.
it's not what you want to be doing. You're not going to win when you're not winning your S&Ds.
Yeah.
You need to be winning those. And you can kind of see the score difference at 0.66. So again, those are going all the way down to the wire. Uplink, though, is rather impressive. 3-1 record, although the score difference is only just a 1.5. So again, very close games coming for Strictly Business all around. Team KD was positive in Uplink at 1.09, negative by 0.01 in the Search and Destroy. So it's kind of a strange feel. You look at Search and Destroy, as you said, JP is the real reason why they didn't have that much of a great event. But Max, talk to me about the weakest player on Strictly Business from the weekend.
So, weakest player, going to go to Spacely.
Okay.
I mean, as a player who has a lot of gun interactions because he's a little more objective-minded, he's that SMG role, but, had a .78 S&D KD, so kind of shows why they went 2-4 on the weekend. A .88 overall KD against Object Nation, which was their losers bracket matchup where they got knocked out. He had a good event in terms of Spacely's performances for respawns, but in terms of S&D, completely pooped the bed.
Yeah, I had a hard time giving him the weakest player because I
So
really
basically
don't.
you're saying it was Max.
I really
throw him under the bus.
No,
JP.
he's
throw him
the
under the
stats
bus.
guy. He
No.
knows the stats.
I gave it because of his performance against Optic Nation, one of the most crucial
losers
matches
bracket,
that he
right?
had. Yeah, losers bracket.
Max
You have
against
to
the
win
wall,
that game. 0.88 KD. You're not going to win when your OBJ player is also getting a .78 S&D KD throughout the weekend.
Right.
I mean, it was hard because I really like OBJ players. They do the work. They're not supposed to get a lot of kills. But S&D, when you're the main bomb planter, you're like the most important person.
Right, you have to play smart.
If you get killed, they can hear the bomb drop. And
Exactly.
.78 KD it's not going to hold up.
A .78 S&D
KD, yeah.
which is very low. I mean, objective players will argue, I didn't really get the help. There was no one introing. I couldn't get control of the bomb site, which is, valid point, something to bear that in mind. Looking at the strongest player, though, give him to TCM, a 1.05 overall KD, averaging a 31.85 slay rating. But bear in mind, they only played 4 matches. So you have to take that into account. A 1.23 uplink KD, averaging 1.75 caps as well. So you can see right there, one of the big reasons Strictly Business were winning uplinks was TCM.
Right. So great event in terms of TCM, but I mean, really, if I'm gonna pick a player just to kind of highlight, it's really Inconsistency for me.
Okay.
Like you said, very up and down AW. At one point, I don't know if you agree with this, but he was one of the fastest rising BAL players in the scene.
Fact.
Yeah, he was dominating. He was okay. Well, Inconsistency might be a top 5 BAL player. I'd say probably mid-season 1, nearing like champs time, especially at champs. He had a
Yeah,
great
he
champs.
he was a really good player during that time period. However, I mean, he was stuck with this SB squad. I feel like he was really doing well in respawns, except the first opening match against Epsilon, the Game 5 S&D, he goes 1-8.
Oh,
Which is just like, you don't want to do that. I mean, he was having some tweets, and he was like, there's nothing I could have done except do better in that S&D. And
Apart from not die.
I mean, it's true. Like, he did well in the first S&D too, which I remember tweeting out from the stats account. He went like 12-4 in the first S&D, but in the Game 5 S&D, the most important one, he goes 1-8.
So, kind of with that in mind and knowing some of the big plays where he's not really stepped up to the plate to perform as well as he should, is he a big moment player? Does he kind of thrive or does he kind of fall in those Game 5 moments? From everything you've seen so far in AW, Max, what would you say?
I mean, I think really inconsistent really describes him. He can step up in those moments, but other times he'll let you down. And really, we've seen in AW that the key word is really consistency.
Yep.
If you want to perform well at events and qualify for the Pro League, so I mean, going 1-8 in the Game 5, like you see, this is the winners round matchup, the first game that was streamed on at the tournament, Epsilon versus SB.
This is Game 5, Detroit Citrus.
Exactly. So we'll see him go 1-8.
Yay!
But
I'm so excited to watch him go 1-8.
You can't really do that in a Game 5, and arguably one of like the most important like matches because it had a huge impact on their loser bracket.
Massive impact. And you kind of see TCM, of course, at the top of the team. We talked about him, 1.32 S&D KD, averaging basically 10 kills.
That's really good.
That's very good.
I mean, I think Anticity was getting all these hate tweets saying, "Oh, you really pooped the bed in that Game 5 going 1-8." But he also tweeted out something like, "You're only as good as your last map," which I mean is kind of true in this community. If you're going 12-4 in the first S&D, and people don't forget about that because you just
about it instantly.
1-8 in the last S&D, you just
but again,
throw that
like,
first one out.
But the Game 5 is so much more important.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, of course, if you don't win that first Search and Destroy, you don't even go to the Game 5.
Yeah.
Of course.
That's true.
But once you're there, the Game 5 is everything.
Oh yeah, it's true. That's true in a lot of
It's
situations.
like round 11, for example, in a map. If you instantly get first blooded, great. You could have got first blood every single round prior to that round 11, but you get first blooded in round 11. I mean,
oh yeah, you'll be attacked. I mean, that's true in so many situations in regular sports and other esports.
Is it true in regular sports?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean,
you think?
Yeah, if Tom Brady goes, throws for 400 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Is he like a hockey player?
Yeah, he plays hockey.
Okay.
And he throws a pick 6 to lose the game. Like, yeah, 100%. Like, whatever he did in the first 3 quarters doesn't matter anymore. So,
that's a good comparison.
Yeah.
Didn't really think of it like that.
But I mean, like we said, like Anticity at a time was one of the fastest rising BAL players in the game.
So, what happened?
What I mean, refresh. Was he dropped from AR? Or did he leave?
I think he was dropped.
He was dropped. So I mean,
was that really the start of the decline?
Yeah, I would say so because it was a time where it was Burns, Happy, Anticity, and
Wheats.
Yeah. Then they dropped Wheats for Spacely.
And then dropped Anticity for Moch.
Right. So, I mean, you're dropping Anticity for Moch. Like, you must think Moch is an upgrade over Anticity.
I mean, yeah. Unless you have internal issues, but it didn't really seem that way.
No, I don't think so at all. I mean, coming off, what was it, the 5th place finish of champs, everyone was like, okay, really good champs. Wheats had a very good champ, so dropping him was a huge question mark. And then
I think that was the first thing.
And didn't they place well at champ? Wasn't it like 5th or 4th or something?
They placed very well.
Yeah, and then
and like, everyone thought they had an easy bracket. Then you look at the bracket, and it wasn't even easy.
Right.
They actually beat some respectable teams.
And they picked up one of a breakout player in season 1 and Happy, who for Aware was tearing it up.
Who
as
had a great event.
Right.
Godlike.
But then you that's kind of like they kind of conflict in terms of their roles because Happy and Anticity kind of played the same role. So they were like, all right, you know what, Anticity, you've been here, you keep on doing the main BAL. We'll have Happy kind of be a flex player, which didn't really fit to his role at all.
Okay.
He really strives more as a traditional, as a BAL.
But at the start, when that team was formed, they were winning. They were winning Pro League games. They were playing relatively well the weekend, and then all of a sudden it was kind of like a flick of a switch, and it all went wrong.
They all imploded. Yeah. So, I mean, I feel like it was kind of that situation like Burns as a captain, maybe AR as an organization, saying we're in a position of power. Let's try to pick up better players and improve our roster because
and it just didn't work out.
It didn't work out. Yeah, I mean, and now Anticity, you really need a strong ballot in this game to succeed in respawns, and Anticity is a great pickup for this strictly business team. I think it really just came down to his 1-8 game, but then players just like the subs like Spacely, in terms of his respawn, he played well as a sub, but these players I wouldn't coin Spacely and Study and TCM, but I guess Spacely and Study as consistent enough subs to
So that was really the issue then, you think? Just a little bit of inconsistency in all parts.
Yeah, I mean, inconsistency is in AW will lose you events.
Yeah, of course.
So I mean, we've seen in Black Ops 2 and Ghost, you can be inconsistent, you can drop a game or two, but if you're inconsistent constantly, it's awful for your team.
I'm gonna be honest, I was kind of upset at the strictly business team. Looking at Study, for example, going into it, I was like, all right, well, he's gonna have a phenomenal event. He's coming off one of the best events. He was kind of hyped. It was that good old Study that you know and love. He was pumped up. He was saying, oh, I'm back. And now he's not made it into Season 3. What does a player like Study do now, JP?
I mean, overall, he had a pretty good event. I think it was just, he was saying on the analyst desk that Epsilon matchup, this first one that you're seeing here, he just didn't do well in, and he said it was partially my fault, and I think he had a pretty good event otherwise. So, I don't know. I feel like, I don't know if he can make it to an S3 team, but I don't know. It's a really hard decision because he's in that bubble area as you were talking about,
Right.
Twiz and Killa, all those players. But I think he's a little step above those, so I'm not sure.
So kind of going back to the original discussion we had with VVV, we kind of talk about these bubble players who just aren't really on the same caliber as some of the players in the league. So would expanding the league actually make any sense? Because people are arguing, there's all these top caliber players, which I feel is based off history of players as opposed to current performances.
Right.
If that makes sense, Killer's not in the league. This is crazy. This guy's a world champion. Okay, but what has he done on a W?
Exactly.
If that makes sense.
Do you think there should be some type of semi-pro league with maybe 8 teams?
UMG tried that, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
they did?
I'm pretty sure UMG tried that.
It didn't work out.
And yeah, I don't know exactly what happened with that.
One
but
team just dominated. I can't remember what team it was.
Didn't Strictly Business themselves play in it?
Yeah, Strictly Business was in it.
Oh, like
Synergy
Stunner or
was in
something?
it.
in
E6?
Stunner.
Was
It was.
E6 in it?
I think it was Stunner. I think Stunner
Stunner?
absolutely dominated.
Really?
But
It's strange because yes, expanding the league, there's enough
Right.
players to do it, but is
I
there
mean,
really
12
enough top quality teams who can compete? I mean, it's like saying, I don't know what really the comparison would be in American sports, but with English sports, it'd be like saying, you take the Premier League, combine the Premier League with Division 1.
Yeah.
no way.
It's like the skill gap is just so,
It's massive.
so big that
Yeah.
it's just, all right, all we've done is added a lot more to the schedule to watch, the number 1 team in the league absolutely destroy this new team.
I think that's what would happen if you added more teams. I think 12 is a good number for right now. I wish there was some way for those bubble teams to somehow practice more so they have some experience
Right.
going into these relegation tournaments.
I think that's the issue, right?
Yeah, because they're going against some of these, the 4 teams that just had previous pro league experience, and they're going in against those. They were playing Optic, FaZe, all these top teams. These guys are playing AMs and trying to get better. I mean, it's hard.
Here's an American sports comparison.
Okay.
So back in the NBA, back in beginning of 2000s when Boston put together their big 3, Paul Pierce, Rajon Rondo,
Kevin Garnett.
well, not Rajon Rondo, Kevin Garnett, Ray Allen, and Paul Pierce. Really setting this whole mindset of the NBA of building dynasties of just stacking your teams with the best players and just
Right.
making finals runs. That's kind of what OG did. They put together Formal, Crim, Karma, and Scump.
And it worked.
And it worked.
Best players
Right.
in the game.
So, and then,
That's surprise! Winning championships.
and then the Heat put together LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh. They won championships. And then
it's almost like this is a recipe for success.
right. And then the Cavs this year obviously did LeBron, Kevin Love, and Kyrie Irving, which was okay, this team is winning everything. But
Was it?
they didn't win because young talent in the form of the
I
Warriors.
mean, the Cavs had some injuries as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's bear that in mind.
Well, LeBron was playing 1v5.
There was a little bit of that.
But it's really the whole term's it's young talent that needs to come up and really beat the dynasties for the regime to change sort of. Otherwise, formal Crim Karma Cup and never breaking
all right,
up.
so I think the prime example of what you just said was E6.
Right.
You look at E6 at the last event who came out, they didn't drop a map in open bracket. Then they go to pool play. The only team that came out of the open bracket to really do anything in pool play.
Yeah.
Then they have one of the closest series against the best team in the game that we've seen in a very long time.
The best CTF in AW history.
Fact. I feel like that was kind of when this whole discussion of really increasing the league came in. But then team breaks up.
Yeah.
Like, how strange is that? That E6 team who looked so promising, all of a sudden, breaks up. And if they'd have been at this relegation tournament, I think things would have been very different.
Guys, we got third. We almost beat OG, but we all went negative. Let's go. I'm going to go team with someone else. Like, no.
I mean, that's the thing, because you see players like Parasite kind of tweet, all right, I don't want to play for fourth place. Like, I'm not playing for second place. I'm not playing for third place. I want to play with a team who I'm going to win with. And that's why.
Right. I mean, that's the mindset that you have to go in to a tournament with. But I mean, you're not going to try and get second place.
But his mindset is that, if he doesn't play well, I'm going to change team. I'm going to try and find that player that can do it. And I think
doesn't make sense.
All of AW, you've kind of seen the story of teamwork can often cause success. TR at Cloud Champs plays second. E6 with a bit of a dream run. And it's kind of strange to see, I don't know, differing opinions to that.
Right.
In terms of plays. Because, yeah, obviously you can put together a God squad like we saw Optic kind of doing. Yes, they've been very dominant. Can someone beat them? Who knows? Maybe this new FaZe squad who look very good.
And we've seen, I guess, quote-unquote, I mean, I'm not going to call the first Optic Nation team from AW a God squad, but they put together that team to really just be the second-best team in the game. When you had Karma, Teep, Proof, and Bose, they were like, okay, Karma and Teep.
Oh, you mean the Optic Nation squad?
Right. The first one. Before the game even started, before Optic Nation was Optic Nation in AW, everyone was like, okay, we had the two best teams in the game if you're an Optic fan. Like,
woohoo!
We're going 1 and 2 every event.
And we know how that turned out.
Right,
for Optic
that didn't work. But I mean,
when
you have the young talent teams like E6 break up, it really just continues to relegate these players like Study, like Spacely, Killa. No, not Killa, but keep on doing that. Fizz, Twiz, John, they're all still relegated to that same group of players, and they won't. It won't.
So, but how do you get out of that group of players?
I don't know.
It's tough, right? And I think that's again where the argument of increase the league comes from, because it's like, hey, we can kind of still be relevant. Personally, I kind of like it as 12 because it means that you have some of the top players not in the league, which kind of gives it that prestige that, hey, this isn't something which is easy to do.
Right.
Just because you've been, a great player in the last game doesn't mean you can necessarily just waltz in and be in the seasons and just kind of stroll through. Like, if you want to be in the season, guess what? You have to have a good team.
Right.
And you're seeing, players like Parasite now just kind of struggle. And that's especially weird in his case, I feel, because he's had a great AW if you look at individual performances at times. But just kind of burn a lot of bridges, I guess.
A couple bridges.
All the bridges
Just a few.
There's one.
There's one.
Europe joins E6. It has nothing to do with Europe whatsoever.
Trick question. There's no bridge to Europe from America.
Or is there?
Or is there?
How do you think I got here next?
But yeah, I mean,
bridge.
as we see, Epsilon's about to close that SB and knock him into the losers bracket, which really spoiled their weekend. The extremely tough matchup going up against Epsilon. Swanee, one of the best bow players in AW.
I mean, yeah.
And
but
then
look at how close this is, right? It's a 5-4
Plus
with Anticity going 1-8. He picks up, a couple of kills in a different round.
That's just unfortunate.
You hate to point fingers, but
you gotta point fingers.
You have to, right? In this situation, in a game 5.
I mean, like I was saying, he did do well in the game 2, but you need that game 5.
You do. And you can kind of see Spacely left in a pretty horrible situation.
He's screwed right here.
He's like, I know he's around here. Let me put some bullets in. Misses.
He would have
2
got that
seconds
kill.
left. And that is GG, strictly business, fall down into the losers bracket. But overall, pretty poor performance from them. Wanted to see something better come from them. They walk out of Season 3 relegation 7th and 8th. Which means up next is going to be Synergy. But before we get to Synergy and take a look at exactly how they played, we're going to take a quick commercial break. Be right back.